Welcome to Synchronicity. My guest this week is Ramin Nazer. You know him. I don't have to introduce him. Does my artwork. He does all the art stuff on Instagram. All the links are there. You don't know him. What the fuck are you doing? Why are you listening to this podcast for? Ramin's the coolest. We talk about all the stuff, as always. We try to be as inflammatory as possible. Just make people upset, make them angry at our loose perspectives on reality and beyond. There's a lot of cool shit in here. You're going to love it. I don't need to hype it up. It's already recorded. It's one of these ones where I say it's going to be a great episode. It's already recorded. I know it's great. You're going to enjoy it. Big shout out to the fucking people at Ned. These guys, Rhett and Adrian, they keep paying me money because I keep talking about their amazing products, and they're super fucking cool. They sent me a gift package with their magnesium lip balm, which is the main thing I use from them, sleep aid, and their hemp oil, their CBD oil. It's good shit. They're good people. There's a lot of fucking weird kind of scammy CBD companies out there. This is one that I personally endorse because I use their stuff and they're just really cool people. If you go to helloned.com, you go use the code SYNC, SYNC at checkout, you get 15% off whatever you order forever. Just keep using that code. They're great. helloned.com. Code SYNC, SYNC, 15% off. They're fucking awesome. I love those guys. So go do that. That's fun. What do we talk about in this episode? Dead, being dead. We're all dead. DMT recap, touched on that. Regular 3D stuff. It's just a cool fucking time hanging out with Ramin. Go check out his art. He's like one of these people that in like 5 years, probably less, people will be like, holy shit, I wish I had some piece of Ramin's art. It's so fucking dope. He's the coolest. I don't know. Short intro? I think short intro. I think that's how we're doing it this time. I don't got anything else to say without, oh no, yeah, I do. Next solo cast is going to be about the four beasts. You'll hear me allude to it in this podcast. The four beasts, by the way, are your physical body, your intellect, your emotion and moods, and the spiritual being that is you. Those four, the harmony between them, that's what we're going to be talking about the next episode. Patrons, you're getting bonus episodes. Finally doing them, right? Cool. We're hanging out on Twitch. Go check that out. Fun stuff. All right, now I've said everything I need to say. Without further ado, here is Ramin Nazer.
All of the beginning formalities of
it's all gone. We're there, shot to shit.
Yeah, that's how we do though.
That's how we do. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to talk to you because I feel like every time we connect, like you've been on like a million journeys already, and perhaps you haven't, and that's its own journey. But yeah, there's always new stuff to explore, you know.
I smoked DMT since we last spoke. For the
You
first
you
time.
hadn't before?
Sure. I had smoked Changa. I had smoked Changa with Sean and Cass, and Michael
I
Phillip
love
was
that
there.
they just know all these Peruvian drugs I've never heard of. Like I hear about
Every
so
single
many.
type.
Yeah.
Every single type. Literally, it's just like Sananga Danga Wanga. It burns your eyes, but it makes I'm like, one time they gave me this spray that like makes your mouth do the weirdest thing. It just feels like thing, but I was like pretty much in a K-hole and it wouldn't stop. I'm like, why did you do this? Like, why did you give me this weird Peruvian root spray? And they're like, it's good for you. I'm like, oh my God. But I
That
love
sounds
them
like
so much.
another album you would make. Like it would just be called Pretty Much in a K-hole. It could be a
Pretty much
music
in a K-hole.
comedy or if you did a comedy CD or something.
That's like half of my material. It's pretty
Pretty
much
much in a K-hole. Is this video and audio? And have we started yet? Because I want to make sure I'm just right, and then I take all the swastikas down from behind me.
there literally is a swastika on this. My roommate has like this, it's an ancient Hindu sign, and there's this thing in front of one of the monitors that's a swastika. It really is.
Doesn't count. I'm
Um,
not talking about the Alex and Allison Gray swastikas. I want
you
the
mean the white Confederate?
yeah,
Yeah, I get it.
the one that instantly when you see it, like it's such a visceral reaction to such a simple shape because, it's history.
Well, we're not doing video. Maybe I could do the video as a bonus. I don't know if it records the
No, your
video.
call. I just wanna keep that in mind so that if I'm showing something, then
You look
I'm
great though. You're looking great.
oh,
You're
thanks, you
looking
too.
pandemic great vibes. I feel like a lot of people I'm seeing actually look pretty good because I think I don't know, maybe it's just my little bubble, but people seem to be pretty happy for the most part. I feel like people have settled into their kind of like, all right, this is what it is. You know, it's worse out there somewhere in out there world, but I don't know. I don't know. People seem pretty
Apocalypse
happy.
fatigue, you know? It's like,
They're done, right?
how much can you care for a year? I mean, they're not gonna send the stimulus checks, they're not gonna really change
PPP.
anything. Huh?
I just mapped it out though. I was just talking about this with my friend, the PPP. Did you do the PPP last time? The paycheck protection plan
I don't even know
government
what
thing?
that is, no.
Do you have a business?
Yes.
Are you your own business? You have like an LLC or
Mhm,
like
yeah,
whatever.
single what is it? Single, proprietor LLC or something.
You're self yeah, okay, so you're self-employed through your LLC. Okay, so sole proprietor, right.
Mhm.
Okay. You can still do this because you don't actually have to say you're self-employed through that LLC. They did this thing called PPP loans last time. I was like one of the first person to get them and get it forgiven. They just give you money. They're just
Cool.
like, "Hey," they're just like, "Hey, are you impacted by COVID? Is your business unable to afford the costs of paying you?" And you go, "Yeah, totally. Like, I can't pay myself what I pay myself a lot of money, and now I can't." And they go, "Okay, well, guess what? Here's the deal. We're gonna give you this money, and then you just have to prove that you spend it on you, your employee, and at the end, we're gonna say you don't owe us that money." And I was like, "All right, this sounds fucking insane." So I applied. They gave it to me. They gave me the money on 420, 20 grand. I got it forgiven like a month ago. They're doing a second round right now for people who didn't get it or people who got it.
You had 20
100
grand forgiven?
literally, like, I can show you, like,
Oh, that's
literally
crazy.
forgiven.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so
tempting, but I'm also afraid of it because it's what if I miss the day where they're like, "Yeah, we're not forgiving those anymore, and we see that you're selling this much through this site," and I'd rather not test I have, not huge trauma, but I have, like, mini trauma surrounding credit card debt and missing the
yeah.
payment and then taking everything out of my bank account, and, it was this whole financial collapse thing, so now I'm
The
like, "Oh."
only the only thing I'll say is if you can imagine that they actually are giving free money and also imagine that someone you know this actually happened for and wasn't like dude, it was like I'm like a very minimum effort type of person in terms of like all this stuff. Um, it really is amazing. It works. Like there's a bunch of people on my Discord server who are going to do it this time around. Um, just just saying, it's an option, and I find it to be super on point where the government is literally just giving people money at
Hell
this
yeah.
point.
This is like the new, I mean, it's like almost a mini Bitcoin, but like, you know, you've got, you're evangelizing ketamine or Bitcoin, or now we've got the PPPs, but they're all great
Free money,
recommendations.
drugs. What's the other stuff I'm
You gotta become
advocating?
polyamorous and then be like Duncan and, like always be like, "You gotta try it, man. It's the most beautiful, loving, connecting experience you'll ever have."
That's such a good impression. It's holy shit, yeah. Yeah, I mean, polyamory, that's a thing. God love them.
Yeah, I
You
wonder how
know?
that's I don't think it's working out much in the pandemic. There's probably less, polying
Talk
going around, at least less
talk
than there would be,
uh,
and then we're gonna have a huge explosion of it in, like, 2024, no pun intended.
Sean and Cass keeping the dream alive, I'll tell you, during the pandemic.
Oh,
They're
they're constantly threesoming 'em? I don't think they can probably not do anything but threesomes, right? I'm just
yeah,
kidding, of
I
course,
think that's
they
I think their
probably
baseline. That's
yeah.
their base
Yeah, their baseline is 3 and they go up to, like, 5 or 7.
I love them so much. They had a little holiday on, 111 where they take acid and burn their fears, which I thought was really sweet and
Oh, that's
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, isn't that cool? It's
I
like a
miss
really
them so much. I need to reach out and see if they can do another podcast or just Zoom hang. Because I mean, there's
there's
nobody like those 2.
There really isn't. There really, really isn't, and there's nothing like their apartment either. It's a weird vortex. If you can ever make it there, it's like a weird kinda like lobby, interdimensional lobby, like, where just fucking crazy things
I
happen. It
bet. I was supposed to come to New York before the pandemic hit. I was supposed to do a workshop at, COSM, the Chapel of
Oh,
Sacred
no shit,
Mirrors.
right down here, right
Mhm,
where I
yeah, and it was gonna be a whole thing. I wanted to, like, visit you and Mike Kaplan and Sean and Cass and, like, do stand-up and stuff, and it was, like, this whole, thing, and then now it's like, "Oh, maybe I'll do it in 2028." I keep pushing the date farther back, like some I love
2028.
your
Yeah.
last podcast, you were talking to Bill, I don't know, Bill something, and
Yeah.
he's like, "I don't wanna stay cooped up for the next 6 months," and I'm just laughing at him like, "Oh, he thinks it's gonna be over in 6 months." That's so funny.
I mean, I wonder what this looks like as time goes on. My relationship to it has been pretty like, I'm not gonna buy into this. I'm gonna not be like an asshole and go around with no mask and like say, "Oh, you fake virus, blah blah." But like, I also internally, I'm like, I don't think this is gonna affect my life. I'm taking all the necessary precautions, whatever people are saying it needs to be, and it seems to be okay. Like, I don't know like exactly how this works. There was a little girl who got it at, my at Eli's school, my oldest son, and she was the only one. No one else got it.
Oh, it's weird to
Literally,
have kids get it, yeah.
no one else though. Like, family, no one. Everyone got tested, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, what is I don't even know what that means, like, medically or scientifically. To me, I don't know. Did we a prayer eradicate it? Did I be like, "I'm not accepting this in my reality"? Is that why it's not there? Like, I don't know how this shit works at this
Yeah, I
point.
think I think you just cast some kind of protection shield around Eli, and the other kids benefited from it, except for that one kid that's probably coming from a different negative background, who knows?
Fine. I mean, I don't ever like to think of it exactly like that, but sometimes I do have those thoughts, but also, like, ultimately, I would like to my relationship, at least to the virus, and I know people are getting it, is like, I firmly and confidently believe, and I don't think I'm gonna be one of those people who's, like, on my deathbed, be like, "I was wrong," but I just, like, I don't think this is going to be like a devastating impact for me. I kind of look at it like the presidential stuff or like storming the Capitol. It's like, yeah, there's people out there, they're totally doing that and it's affecting them and they're really like enraged and upset. But at the end of the day, like, that's not I I don't even know how to relate to that. That's like a totally different world that doesn't impact, and I think that bothers a large enough group of people who are like, "Well, you say that until you get it. That's just a cavalier attitude," but I also just I do believe that. I really do
Yeah.
believe it,
I mean,
and
and
I
in
don't
what way
know.
are you in what way are you at risk? I mean, because you said you're not gonna be an anti-mask person or something, but do you still travel a lot? Do you still go to the Handshake festival or whatever?
I go to the Handshake Festival every Thursday, as you know. They have them around the country. They're
Yeah.
fucking amazing. You spit in your hand and you shake people. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So
"Sir, that's
it's
not your
great.
hand." "Yeah, yes, it is. Shake it."
That's the different one. That's on Fridays. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not, like, super risky, but I went to Turkey in the middle of a pandemic for 2.5 months, and I flew, like, internationally and back and forth, and, like, that's pretty risky if you look at the things that one could do during a global pandemic, and it was fine. And, I know people have gotten this. I know people who's in their family have gotten it, but, like, they're fine. They're okay. Like,
Yeah.
they live, you know what I mean? Like, they're good. And to me, that seems to be what happens the vast majority of times. It doesn't mean we take it not seriously, but I do have to believe that kind of the resonant field we put out with what we believe reality to be, it's not like it doesn't work for some of the things. It's not like it works for up to everything except the virus. So for me to kind of like engage with it dualistically like that as like a totally separate thing from my consciousness or awareness, that doesn't make sense, and I think that's what a lot of people kind of subtly know internally, but that can be, like, expressed or warped, like, "I don't need to take no mask, like, Jesus protects me." It's like, yeah, totally. Jesus being your consciousness and firm belief you're not actually gonna get it. If you have, like, a subtle subconscious thing where you're fearful you're gonna get it, you're gonna get that shit. It's not some guy protecting you from it, so, yeah, that's my
Yeah,
stance.
that's what I hold inside myself, but I can never I mean, you can do it, and I guess I can do it somewhat too because we're in this, little genre of, we think the universe is a hologram and our imagination controls the whole thing, which it totally does. Like, the shit the
Totally.
competitors are selling is stupid, but, I think when it becomes about like, trying to convince other people of this, then it's like, "Oh, I don't even wanna touch the convincing other people of it," because I don't even know what a virus is. I think we've talked about this before, but, it's a little ball with suction cups on it, and then it goes in
Yes.
there, and then it does stuff to your I have a body, and I don't know what most of it does. I can't even
I
draw most of the parts of it accurately.
I don't know almost what anything does, and furthermore, I'm grossed out by most of it. Like, if you cut open a human body, that's disgusting to me. I
Isn't
don't
it
wanna know
so
more
great?
about it.
Yeah, that people there's people that go to school for it and want to. They get up early every morning to go cut bodies open.
It blows my fucking mind.
Yeah, I'd still have a hernia if there wasn't people like that. Like, I needed
Yeah.
someone that cared about that to cut or, like, put a little incision and then go fix the hernia and then come back out. Don't even
God,
remember their name. What was their name? Doctor something or other?
whatever. Thank God you had that dream to cut someone open and not be grossed out by it.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude. So, yeah, I mean, no, I haven't been on that many journeys, but what have you been doing? I mean, we spoke not too long ago.
June
I
or
think
July, maybe? I think it was during, the major, George Floyd protest. Maybe it was after the George Floyd
Trump, we
protest.
did some Trump stuff. I remember there was some pushback from some people. We
Oh,
spoke
was
about
there?
Trump. Maybe it
Well,
was around election time.
yeah, I think you had, like, a summer of because you used to hate Trump and Jordan Peterson, and then you
Yeah,
went not the opposite, but you were like, "No, actually,
pretty hard.
I like Trump not as a person." You said, "I like Trump as that he calls out like, he triggers your fear, and it's, like, a good reflection of what you're afraid of, and it's
I
such a
do.
cartoon that, like, dissolves reality." You had, like, all these justifications for it, and he's, funny. He is this cartoon character, and all, threats of violence aside or whatever the things were. Um,
Yeah.
there was that, and now it's in a different space. I was having this thought about how if you don't like the way reality is, if you just wait a week, the
A
narrative will
week.
flip. It'll like go opposite. Like cops are villains in June, and now it's like these police are heroes. This is officer so and so. He's a black police officer who saved the
Right,
Capitol from
right,
demise. And it's kind of
right.
funny that we've got like the people like posting pictures of these hero cops. Like, wait, I thought you wanted to kill all the cops like 3 months ago, but I just go along with it. I'm not like
That
I used to, uh, have to have this stance of, like, when some piece of news is presented to me, I have to be like, "But what's really going on? What's really happening here? What do they benefit from having this narrative?" And now I'm just agreeable. I'm like, "Oh, it's terrible that they stormed the Capitol. We have to do something about this,
how
and we
dare
have to
they?
do something about racial injustice, and we have to do something about our LGBTQ families and our less." And I like to just be
Just go into
agreeable.
it.
I'm just a
Lean
good
into
boy.
it.
Yeah.
You're a good boy. You're just agreeing with it. I mean, to me, either direction, if you don't take it what you're talking about should be a reminder that this is a joke. If you
Mhm.
wait a week, you're gonna be on opposite side of the fence related to some issue. If you take like a firm emotional issue that you're not directly connected to.
Mhm.
Most of what we do is we don't catch it, but we create these like avatars or people in our mind who are doing these things. And maybe if we're lucky, we get pictures of them at like the Capitol or something. We're like, see, that's one of them. That's one of those people who does those things. And it's like, oh shit. So we crystallize them at least in that way. That's like, why do you want to take the time to do that? Like you have to go through the effort, even if it's very quick and you don't notice it. You're literally constructing a world which you then have to engage with. It's all an internal process. For me, as much as this is like, and we all have our weak spots. We all have like, the points in our life where we get caught up in the shit. But the more you can kind of remember to zoom out and just be a little more kind of accepting and patient with people playing out whatever they need to play out to do their stuff, it seems to be a more pleasant ride. I say this as someone who got in like a very big fight with my mom, like over like just like a thing that I can't mention on air, but I was just like, fucking, I was like, why is she like this? And then like over the course of 12 to 24 hours, I was like, fuck, it's me too. Fuck, like that's my shit. If I'm getting mad at it, that means there's something in me. Fuck. And like, you have to come to
Oh,
terms
yeah.
with all this stuff and all these things in our lives. I just feel like at least the distant political ones that we're talking about, and I think this is like why I got pegged as a Trump guy for a little bit. It's like it's so like, I don't have time to really be upset about those things, like, I just do it's not even like a calculated decision. It's just like, I don't have I can't do that, and I know that's easier said than done for some people. We have our tendencies and our habits, but the more we can remember that, I think it's like, the easier this shit gets, and then, you can do what you wanna do, which is fun stuff.
Yeah, and, That's interesting that you even can't talk about the fight. Like, if it's you that can't talk about it, that's a big one because, like, you'll talk about
Well,
a tick biting your dick and, like,
here's the thing,
and anything.
I can't talk about it for the fight is about the reason I can't even talk about it. It's just something I can't publicly disclose because I don't wanna, like, hurt people's feelings. And, privately, people know about this and, because of, like, my mom's incessant kind of like, "You have to, like, expose this, you have to expose this." I'm like, "This is, like I don't want our relationship just to be you telling me, like, what I need to do." Like, I understand this is
Expose what?
hurtful.
Like corruption or something?
No, it's just the event, that is going to take place in the future, and someone doesn't know about it, and when they find out about it, they probably won't be the happiest person in the world, and, I have basically the power to tell that person
Oh,
about it,
this is
which I
a
plan
this
on
is a
doing.
personal thing, not a news thing.
It's a personal thing. Yeah, it has nothing to do with
Mm.
news, like and I
Oh, okay,
think that
I
the
get
reason
you.
I bring it up is for personal stuff, is, like, that's where a lot of it sneaks in. Like, for me, it's super easy to be detached from, like, external events. Like, for the most part, like, I'll maybe get riled up in the moment if I'm reading an article, be like, "How dare they? How fucking dare they?" And then I'll be like, "Alright, I don't really give a shit." But for personal things, like, that's the shit that'll cling to me for, like, 24 hours seems to be the limit now, and I'll just be like, "Rah,
Mm,
rah."
yeah.
How dare you? How fucking dare you? How you're like this. So, like, we all have the shit to work with no matter what it is in our lives. It's just like, I feel like the more, we remember that and can zoom out, we can at least choose the things or the habits or the areas that we wanna, like, work through stuff. Like, you know, to me, that at least seems like a productive way of approaching this. We're all now, for the most part, our patterns have been interrupted for what, like a year? Over a
Almost,
year?
yeah.
Yeah, almost a year in March, right? That's kinda when the shit hit the fan?
Actually, in I think Wuhan had it earlier, so, like, if we're judging by when corona first made its appearance and it was, like, at the level of seriousness of SARS or, another type of bird flu, which never became a global lockdown pandemic, it's been a year now. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, and
We've
so,
we've
like, a
gone through
year
so many eras just in I mean, I know some people have traveled, but to me, it's like all of this took place in my apartment through screens.
well, I saw you, like, a year ago, I think, right? I was in LA
December, I think, or
January.
January, yeah, January.
Yeah, January, so we probably hung out right around this time, weirdly enough, and, to think of all the things that have happened in between that chunk of time, it's fucking insane. Like, it's a completely different we shifted this timeline. For me, I don't know about you, I've been having a great, great time. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I can't complain. I do what I want. I'm lucky to have not lost a job. I just do the podcast thing and the art thing on and I have my art store, and luckily people still buy that stuff, so I'm able to sustain myself, of course, so that's lucky. I'm also an indoor cat. Not that I don't like going to hikes and the beach and stuff, but if it's like you're locked down for the next 10 years, it's like, well, I guess I'll better catch up on all these old live, Charles Mingus and John Coltrane videos, and ooh, I forgot this whole like, just going down
Yeah,
rabbit
you love
holes of because
hibernate.
I was
Love
I
it.
was thinking about, when we say, "Well, there's only 24 hours in a day," we often think of it as an output, thing. It's like, well, you only have 24 hours to output the things you wanna work on, but, I was thinking about it more in terms of input. You only have 24 hours of what you take in, so if you're just taking in news and you're taking in Twitter fights, um, then you're wasting that time that could be used on cooler programming, cooler food for your psyche. So I've just been changing my diet slowly to
Mm,
where
mental diet.
yeah, I kinda know what's going on in the news just because I have a partner who gets stuff, and sometimes we talk about it, but other than that, I don't try to do the both sides thing and figure out what reality is because that's just a control thing. I realize, like, oh, I'm trying to control reality by standing outside of it and seeing that, oh, the left is doing this wrong, the right is doing this wrong, the center is negligent, and I suck and you suck and culture wars suck and it's society's fault. No, it's the media's fault. No, it's social media's fault. It's like, just shut up, you stupid
Yeah.
asshole. Like,
Yeah, that's basically, I think, the proper approach. It's just like, I don't. I don't need that. Like, it's too much. It's like, fine. You know what I like to do when I go on my phone? I like to do a variety of things. I like to look at Twitter for very specific reasons. I'm friends with most of the people on Twitter. It's for crypto stuff and it's for funny shit. That's basically it. I've pretty much catered it to anyone who ever makes me feel like, ah, this guy's doing that because of this. How dare they think that? Because I'm like, holy shit, like, what am I doing? Just literally created an entire world where like I'm opposed to this person's perspective. I don't even know if they believe that shit. Who gives a fuck? So I like and enjoy everything we have around us. I don't view it as kind of some sinister, diabolical kind of like control mechanism. I like to engage with people who are interested in that stuff because I think it's like interesting. It's like, "Oh, that's cool that you think that." But like I don't invest too much time in that. The one thing that you know that I really invest in is like we get to shape where and choose where we place our awareness and our consciousness. And that has a direct impact on typically how we feel. And if we can kind of like get control of that just a little bit and be like, hey, maybe I'd like to play this game where these things happen, that to me feels a little more satisfying than just feeling like I'm fucking getting against this person that have to it's like a constant game of like what's the game where Space Invaders where you have to
Yeah.
constantly become faster and faster. It's like I don't have time for that shit. I don't want to play that game.
And
Play a
they
more
look
relaxing
so
game.
dumb, like, I'm sure maybe they know it on some level, but the people that when a news event happens and they write just like they pretend they're the New York Times and they have this
I
giant diatribe about, "Well, here's what the other side doesn't understand and why we don't need to," like, you think someone's reading this? And, I mean, but it's also just to get it out. Here I am again, like, complaining about,
Here they
see,
are.
here I am complaining about culture war stuff again but then pretending to stand outside of it. It's like none of us can really stand outside of it. We're always gonna get a little bit of it, and deep down, we just wanna have that world of, all holding hands in the rainbow, and, like, we're not gonna get there by saying that peace can only be brought about through war, and then once we kill the other side, then it'll be peace. But,
Right.
I mean,
Then
we
it's
do
right.
have some problems with some extremists, of course, and I think they're gonna get clipped out. There's gonna be like a limiter, like, put on an audio file where they're
Totally.
clipping out the hard right and the hard left, where just anything in the center is going to be left. Like, you can't be a communist and you can't be a Trumpist or anything.
I feel
It's
like
gonna
it'll
be
be a
interesting.
filter. I don't clipping seems extreme. I don't know that that works in reality for most people. It feels there's too much of like a snapback when you clip something. When you roll it off with the filter, you're just tuning it away. Those
Ooh,
high
good.
frequencies right there, I don't really listen to those anymore. I don't really need to do that. Oh, I want a high pass filter, those low frequencies, that little rumble. I don't want to hear that anymore. It's still there. It's not going anywhere. We just can't hear it. That to me really does seem like a pretty crucial kind of emerging mindset that people sooner or later do settle into. And this is just one thing that I've really experienced over the past few months, 6 months, I'd say, or so. Like a lot of fucking personal crazy shit going on in my life is when you just relax and let go and kind of just allow the best for yourself, that's your natural state. That's what you actually want to do. The amount of energy we expend trying to space the invader, defend our reality or our beliefs or our viewpoints, the harder it is to see that like that's what we're doing. But when you just let it go, you just be like, oh yeah, shit's good.
Mhm.
Shit's really good. It's not actually that bad, which can be difficult if your immediate surroundings even are like very kind of like, holy shit, I don't like this. This is a bad place. This is bad things are happening to me. That's why I mean, I, I feel like I evangelize it so much. It's kind of like it's just like a caricature of a person at this point. But I do believe like the reason it works so well, just like imagining this stuff before you go to sleep and impressing your subconscious mind before you go to sleep is the best I can tell, and this is based on experiences I had when I was like 3, 4 years old, is when we go to sleep, and I watched my 1.5-year-old fall asleep the other day, and you do that thing sometimes where you're like, "Whoa," and
Yeah.
you, like, catch yourself. But the baby was doing it, and it's because you feel like you're falling backwards, and I remember being a kid actually aware of this all the way through, well past the point of a physical body, where it'd just be like this matrix grid of light and this dark everywhere else, like void-like, and there'd just be this sound that went, "Whoa," and I remember it, like, happening a lot, and then at a certain point, I was, like, freaked out by it, and then it stopped. So I think what we do when we go to sleep, when we go into the void, when we know we're there, people can see us, we're there, but somewhere in our minds, we're in dream world, astral plane, who the fuck knows where. We withdraw into this like higher dimensional reality, more expansive dimensional reality. That's where we create everything. Then we kind of integrate our consciousness into this linear time of space time, Ramin, Noah, Earth doing this stuff. But we do it so convincingly, we don't catch on to that's what's actually going on. So we go like, no, this is the place. Like, this is where everything's happening. What are you talking about? This dream world? I don't think so. Like sometimes I do stuff there, but I'm not so sure that's a real place. But I'm pretty sure that it seems to be kind of where we actually create this place. I don't know. I
Oh,
can't
yeah,
disprove it
and
at this point.
you can get to a place, you know, oftentimes on psychedelics where you're, it's so obvious that this world, this resolution is a Pixar world. Not exactly that cartoony, but just one little tweak more cartoony, and the other world is so much more in depth, and this one is so, like, smoothed out, and, I was watching Soul, you know, everyone's talking about
Yes,
Soul, and I
yes.
watched it, I loved
Okay.
it, it's great, it was worth the Disney Plus
Totally,
subscription.
right?
Yeah,
And
I
Mandalorian's good too.
yeah, I wanted to watch a whole concert of what's her name, Deborah Williams? It was some no, Dorothea. It was it's like
Or
some
I know the saxophone lady.
yeah, it's like there's like some twist of a Nor name you've heard, I think. Yeah, we've all heard of Dorothy, but then it's like
Yeah,
Dorothea. Ooh, that's a
yeah.
interesting twist.
Ooh,
And then
ooh.
yeah, and like when they're just playing clips of that, it's like, "Oh, I wanted to watch a whole hour of
Yeah.
the what's his name? John Baptiste." He's the guy that they even modeled his hands after the guy playing the
I was
piano.
so impressed with the bodies and the hands in that movie. Such a good
Yeah.
movie. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
great message too, like, it's not about finding your one thing, it's about just kinda enjoying
yeah,
eating pizza and sucking your own dick or whatever. I think they
yeah.
deleted
That's
that
the
second
that
part.
the sucking the dick scene was a little jarring in the movie, but I did think it conveyed the message pretty well.
Yeah, and the soul world and the going into the big one, and it all fits in within the Pixar theory too. You're familiar with the Pixar theory?
I don't know the Pixar theory.
Pixar theory is that all the movies take place on one universe and there's one timeline, and, it, like, starts with, Brave, the one with the bow and arrow,
I
with the
saw this on
red-haired
TikTok.
one, and then the future is Monsters, Inc. Because they have all this teleportation technology. Cars is way in the future, and there's all these hints, and, like, there's hour-long videos explaining this theory, and there's a book
Oh,
about it, and Soul is like, "Oh, this just even confirmed it even more that this is like
cool.
Soul number
Wow, I
22."
always
Yeah,
wanted it WALL-E, they have, like, a thing. Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
that's fun. So, yeah, I guess I've just been watching content is what it comes down to, huh? It's like I switched my content from analyzing what's going on in the news, from various comedy podcasts from the left and right, and then now I'm just watching Pixar and old
I
YouTube.
do think there's a qualitative difference though that a lot of the Pixar stuff, a lot of the things that, like, are really engaging like that, a lot of thought, attention, care, love, and detail goes into those, and you can tell those even if they're like a short little clip, it's a different resonant tone. There's a reason why I think a lot of people are talking about that movie and other things, that feel good like that in, like, a substantial way. Is because like, that hits us just a little bit differently than, like, someone yelling about how bad this person is, like, that's like, "Oh, yeah, I know that song. That's not my favorite song." Like, I don't really wanna
Yeah,
listen to
the
that.
bad people are really bad, and it's not okay to be silent. We must speak out against the bad people and the people supporting the bad people and the people on the fence or who haven't even heard of it yet. It's very important that we chastise them. And
The
it's
most
funny that, like, we've probably already talked about this already, but I mean, what haven't we talked about? Coming into this conversation, I'm like, "What can I talk about that people aren't sick of?" Because 'Cause they're sick of hearing about pandemic, they're sick of culture wars, they're sick of maybe not imagination talk, because that's why they're
I
tuning
wanna
in.
hear I wanna talk about DMT stuff because I don't
Ooh,
know
yes, you just did it,
if
yeah.
you heard, but I had the darkest, scariest, just, like, fucking threw me for a loop DMT experience with our friends Sean and Cass, um, both with regular DMT, and then I smoked some changa a little bit after that. Granted, I was on ketamine, I was on acid, just had done some nitrous,
Wait, so
so I
you got
was definitely
nitrous, DMT, acid, changa, and what else?
ketamine.
All this in the same, like, day?
I don't know, same, like, hour? Same,
Same
like an hour and a
hour?
half.
That's wild. Is there a I mean, keep going with that.
It was about as fucking crazy. My big lesson from it was, um, be a little more, honoring of the substances you may be doing to ping yourself off into unknown dimensions of time and space and beyond. Maybe just take that just a scotch bit more seriously. Um,
Yeah,
but
like,
yeah,
don't
dude.
get the season pass, just I don't know, go every
Holy
month.
shit, dude. And also it was my first time smoking, like, pure DMT. I'd done the Chongo, which is a little bit different. Um, yeah, dude, so we were all making music here. We had a nice studio set up. They brought
Is
their
that
friend.
a PRS behind you?
It is.
PRS
Yeah.
standard what is it? Sunburst? No, they don't do a sunburst.
Sunburst. It is,
Oh, cool.
absolutely. Yeah, I got it
I
special.
love Paul, and I love
They're s
listening to his long distance talks where he calls Steve Vai or John Mayer, and they just talk about gear for
Oh,
an hour.
it's so good. I'm not a gearhead, but I just love this guitar so much, like, it sounds so fucking good,
It's always
and,
in tune. PRSs stay in tune. If you buy one, like, it arrives in
why is
tune.
that? Okay, first of all, that's true. Second of all, I have to tune up my acoustic guitar, which is actually more expensive and like a theoretically a better guitar. That thing goes out of tune all the time. That thing, the electric is never out of tune.
Yeah, because
It's
Paul cares, like, he cares about where the wood comes from, how did you stain it, what's the nut made of, how is it like, every little
I love it.
detail, it's all he thinks about, and he is some like, what's maker god, Hephaestus?
Yeah, Hephaestus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think he's Hephaestus or something. He's one of these gods that is like a master builder and, like, only cares about that, and his big glasses, the Coke bottle glasses that make his eyes
totally.
4
Gotta have
times as
those.
big. He's a character, I love that guy.
I feel
Okay, so you
like
were making music.
anyone who designs and yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I think we got a little delay there for a second. Yeah. Okay. So
Okay,
we're
you go
making
ahead.
music, and okay. Uh-oh. Are we off sync?
No,
Tell
I
me
can
when you
hear you.
hear me. Say I. Tell me when you say I can hear you.
I can hear you.
See, there's a delay. Fucking why does this always happen?
I don't feel you delayed, but maybe it's because I'm answering second.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. Let me see here.
Well,
Hold
we
on.
can save and restart or
Yeah, let me shit. No, I don't wanna do that. Oh, now you're gone. Okay.
I'm gone.
Okay, I think can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There is a delay, but I feel like I guess I can deal with it. I hate this shit. Why does this always happen?
It doesn't want us to
Alright.
get to the actual truth. It wants us to just circle it.
Alright, well, I'm gonna power through it. So basically, this is what happened. So I was making music with these guys, and I was like, "All right, on like a little bit of drugs." I was like, "This is really fun. We got a really good song emerging here. I'm gonna go to DMT World and grab some extra shit. Let me get some extra melodies. Let me get some extra stuff there." I've never done DMT like that. I just remember my first experience was this like beautiful tunnel of light and purple awesome. And they're like, "Oh, your dreams are coming true." And I'm like, "Amazing. I love it." And then so I was like, "Let me do that again, but this time pay attention to the music because I'm gonna bring that back." Um, that is
Mm.
not what happened. I took apparently they said 3 very large hits. I remember kind of the second one, and then, I leaned back onto this cushion and here's what I can remember. I immediately regressed back through all of my like linear timeline. So like I go from my age to being like a child. I kind of got looped at various points. I think this was the ketamine because like you can get looped in these ketamine things sometime. So I got looped at a kind of young age. I remember like 3 or 4, then went pre-birth, then I'm gone. I don't remember anything there. Like literally, I remember there was this grid of yellow and pink, and there were these like bendy straw type of like shapes that like curved on, and there was this sound. It was like I was like, all right. I don't remember shit after that. What I do remember after that is coming back into my body. Every time I would breathe in, everything is gone. It's black. It's a void. Every time I breathe out, it goes like and the world fades back into existence. So that's pretty terrifying because it was lasting what for me felt like at least a minute or two of like every in breath, everything's gone.
Oh,
So
damn.
at that point, I'm like, oh, I'm dead. Like, this is it. This is the end of life. Like, people are asking me to let go. I'm on like my ventilator or whatever the fuck it is, but this is me being asked to let go. So I'm pretty much terrified. Then I start to like see around me. And all I can remember is I see my friends. It was Sean, Cass, their friend Mare, Bill, and overlaid, it was primarily Cass, God love her, where all I can hear and just see her saying to me is, "Yeah, yeah, it's good, right? You want get more, do that. Money's not real, yeah." But there's this weird like sound behind when she's doing it, and I start getting really freaked out. I'm like, "Holy shit." I'm like, "Where am I? Like, what's going on? Who am I?" I couldn't remember anyone's name. I didn't know if my partner's name was a real person. So I'm like, "Fuck." So I think at one point, I say to them out loud, and I'm like up. I like stood up and I'm like, "You're all vampires." And then so at that point, like, Bill told me he thought at one point I was gonna turn on him and shit. But basically, like, they're, like, a little freaked out, like, maybe we broke Noah, because I guess at another point I was on my
That's saying a
knees.
lot. If someone says we broke
Yeah,
Noah, that's a very
yeah.
serious claim.
Well, they were super sweet. Sean and Cass called me, like, a couple of weeks later, and they're like, "We just wanna check in and make sure that, like, everything's okay." Because
You've
like, I
scared them
probably
a handful of times at this point.
really, that's my job in their life. They're so far out. My job is to freak them out. If you
Yeah,
can
to go one
imagine.
step further than what they were thinking about doing.
It's just like, maybe we won't take all those drugs together. But anyway, I remember I'm on my knees at one point. I'm like, "What do I do? What do I do?" And I remembered music and I remembered love. And so slowly I was able to like claw back with like what I felt was like love and like beauty and like harmony to like baseline level reality. But Sean described it as basically he thought I pulled the ripcord, the consciousness ripcord too soon and was like back in my body before you're supposed to be.
Ooh.
And I was like, yeah, that sounds kind of right. But yeah, dude, it was dark. It was scary. I felt like there was this weird parasitic vampiric energy. I think where I woke up and was like phasing in and out of this world and wherever I was like a Bardo plane, like a hungry ghost realm. And what I was seeing overlaid onto Sean and Cass in my environment was like this hungry ghost energy, like, yeah, more, we need more, whatever it takes, get more. Like, cause that's what it felt like. And I was like, holy shit, like I'm not familiar with this. And I think I like probably pierced through some layer of reality. I like to think of it as a nice balancing act for me. I
Yes,
gotta go.
you could call it that. I like that you
Fuck.
call them I mean, of course, you're in an altered state at this point in the story, but, like, you call them vampires, like, if you're faced with vampires, you should not let up that you're afraid and that you recognize it. You should just kinda keep that to yourself and be like, "Oh, okay, they're vampires. Let me pretend to go to the bathroom and then climb down the fire escape." Except that would have
Well,
probably
what
ended up
happened
worse.
was I actually remember my thought process during this. It was going on for so long that I thought at one point, like, oh, this is just me. Like, I'm just in, like, this is all like my creation. So these people aren't, I'm in some other place now and I'm creating them. So I'm like, oh, they're phasing through like layers of reality. I might as well call them for what they are. I remember at one point I told them I was going to drive. I was like, I'm leaving. I'm driving. They're like, we don't think that's a good idea. And I was like, yeah, probably not. I could barely stand up that way. But like, dude, it was I did the main lesson I learned, like, right when I came back and I told them I loved them, I was like, "Wow, I am really grateful and appreciative to be in this reality and resonating at whatever frequency we're resonating at to stabilize this shit because you could go anywhere." That's one thing that taught me. It's like you could live and exist and experience anything, literally infinite possibilities, and to have this one and have access to all this shit, that's pretty fucking cool. Um
Yeah.
Man, it was it was a
This
fucking
was,
doozy.
this last month or what?
It's probably about a month ago at this point.
Oh, wow.
Wow, dude, I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And then I played I think which is a very dangerous game that I'm glad I had, my own kind of support system to not fall into. Like I was close to otherizing the experience. I was close to being like, okay, there are these parasitic demons. They're literally sucking my soul. I just contacted them. I now have to be on guard for parasitic demon entities. Like, I have to now be worried that these things are doing this to me. And like, after a couple of days of like really kind of engaging and entertaining that idea, I'm like, you know what? Doesn't add up. It's like, what, my consciousness creates reality except for these parasitic entities?
Yeah.
And like, that doesn't make sense. So I recognize it as an aspect of either my psyche, subconscious. Like, I have to have awareness of even the idea of vampires or that type of energy or whatever it is for it to even exist for me to perceive it. So I kind of reeled it back in. I was like, all right, I got to accept that even that
It's such a
is,
sleight of hand, like, it'll slip right out of you, and you think that you've got it under control, and then you do the thing again. You think you're above it all, and you're just doing the other thing. Like, whether it's, so many psychedelic people get into that, where they're like, "Oh, there's entities now, and they're mining their crypto on you," or, "Oh, they've installed malware on you," or, "You've gotta keep the negative vibes out with." It just always sounded
yeah,
like work to me. Like, can't I just
too much.
pretend that I turned the game off or something, but to each their
Yeah,
own. It's our own little stories.
I guess for me, I just think at the end of the day, that game of otherizing ultimately is so dissatisfying and like not true. It's not really what's going on that like it's a game you play until you're just like, yeah, I'm done.
Maybe
Like
that's
I,
why
I think it
you were more, sympathetic towards the Trump side is because that's the ultimate, othering, and, I mean, Trump is he was the match, he's not the gasoline. He does add more gasoline to the
he's gonna be
situation,
a
but
player too. I mean, he's gonna fucking stoke some fires well after this presidency and other things. I mean, I sometimes like to let my mind go to places like where he becomes kind of like a Weimar Republic agitator,
what's
like a kind
that?
of so the Weimar Republic is what happened after World War One in Germany. So Germany was like the world was like, "Hey, you fucked up, Germany. Like you can't take over the world. What are you doing?" And so like you are fucked. Like you have to pay everyone back. Your infrastructure is screwed. Like we don't give a shit. So the Weimar Republic was like, "All right, I have a solution for this. Let's make more money. We're going to give everyone more money and this is going to be like a really good thing. And it's going to make everything work well." And, a few years after that, they're like, this idea isn't working so well. So on the side, you had Hitler and kind of this rising populist movement of like, look at these people. They fucked over, everything is bad. And so, like, he was deft and blamed that on not just the Jews, but other marginalized people and was like, it's their
Jews
fault.
are the
This is
headliner, though.
Jews were the headliners, though. They got front billing on the thing. But basically, you know, when things are objectively bad, it's easier for a populace to come up with a reason for why they're that way. The way you empower a populace is by saying, this guy's the worst, and everyone who believes him and thinks anything he says is true are also the worst. You then create a coalition of people who, even if they're not really aligned with that person, are like, well, things are bad. These people are calling us the worst. We know we're not the worst, so those people must be pretty bad too. And it just creates this dynamic. He is clearly going to create a media apparatus like after this is all said and done. And I would like to think without government oversight, he probably won't encourage people to like do dumbass things like they did, like storm the Capitol, which is just not a smart thing for anyone. It doesn't accomplish your goal. Um, but he does seem to be a lot of people's worst fears related to narcissism and kind of like emotional kind of detachment. He very well could, and I think if people believe enough in that, that's what we'll see.
Yeah, he doesn't
Um,
encourage the bad things, he rather does it in a sneaky way, when they
yeah,
call it the dog whistling or
yeah,
just the fact that he could have worded it so many better ways, but, it's like the strategy he's using the outrageousness, staying in the headlines and stuff, it was the perfect strategy to win in 2016, and the same way that Hillary Clinton ran a campaign from 1995, it's kinda like Trump was running his 2016 shit in 2020, and 2020 had moved on from
done.
outrageousness, so it didn't really work. I mean, I know that 70 million people voted Republican, but that's not necessarily for him, like some of them, but most
No,
of them
a
just
lot.
didn't like Biden or they want tax bullshit
But you could
things.
say that maybe he has like 10 to 30 million people who are like like they voted for him. Like he was the driving message. And of those, I'm not saying all of them are like they're all like zealots trying to storm the Capitol, but you probably have like a good million or two people who are like very devoted to his every word in the same way that someone maybe would have hung on like Rush Limbaugh's word in like the 90s or any other left
Is he
wing or
still
like Rachel.
alive? Is he still doing his thing?
He did pills. I know he all these people get busted for pills. Everyone they're living that life, man. They should just become rappers. They'd be so much cooler.
It's
That's
funny that they're just still, around and they're always doing the same thing. Like, I went through a little phase where I tuned into, I mean, what is it? I would see what Ben Shapiro thought of the current
totally.
situation. I wanted to see what Tim Pool thought and Scott Adams, and then you kinda get tired of it, and then you tune back in 6 months and you're like, "Oh, they're still on their bullshit. They're like a program that I can easily say what they're gonna say about the latest news. It's very
Yeah.
it's
It's
so
it's
programmatic, but I get it. That's where they make their money, and, I mean, Candace Owens has figured this out very well. She knows how to be the, contrarian black
provocateur.
lady that can just say the opposite and,
And I
so
think,
on.
like, like, God love them if that's what actually what makes their, like, soul
That's
happy,
a Tim Dillon
If
line. God
it
love 'em.
it really is. I love Tim too, man.
He
He's fucking
he's been
he's
one of the best, comedians of this era. He's the perfect news anchor for the apocalypse.
that's what he is. He's the perfect news anchor for the holy shit, that's exactly what he is, and his like, I just like that if you don't understand what he's actually saying about the absurdity of everything, you just get suckered in so quickly. So just like you're gonna be, well, this fucking guy. And it's like, no, like that you can't take this shit seriously. Like you have to let people live their lives. You have to also accept that your opinion on a matter that you probably don't know that much about, myself included, isn't that important,
Yeah.
relatively speaking to this shit. Like, you're not actually you don't care enough to go, like, run for political office or, like, figure out what it takes to create a grassroots movement to change the need. Like, you just wanna, like, off gas some shit. I get it. That's fine, but don't get so bent out of shape with this stuff all the time. It's too much. People will be exhausted, I think, by the end of this year. Biden will be this nice little, like, nicotine patch people slap on. They're gonna
Yeah.
give out money. They'll be like, "Alright, things are kinda normal." But I do think, like, there's gonna be plenty of I'm it's fucked up to say. I like that Biden essentially ran on the premise, like, "I'm gonna get rid of the virus." Like, Trump fucked this shit up. He let a virus come in. I'm gonna get rid of it.
He
I
did.
know
He
how to
shouldn't
do
have made that virus. That was very mean of him.
It's like, dude, what happens, like, 2 years in? I mean, God, I hope he
Oh,
doesn't
it's
die
kinda
because
did you see, I mean, speaking of Tim, I mean, we've brought him up every
yeah.
recent episode, I think, but he had a tweet recently that was like, in 6 months, talking about politics is going to be like talking about Game of Thrones, where just no one's going to listen to you, and,
No one
then
cares.
Biden's gonna die, and, Kamala will be president, and then, you can't I mean, this isn't stuff he said, I'm just paraphrasing some of it, but like there's still not going to be stimulus checks. They're going to say like, well, it's racist to give stimulus checks equal amount to white people and black people, so we still have
Yeah,
to work this out. And
yeah.
they're rejecting it, and you get $600 during this pandemic, and that's it.
That to me is the weirdest thing. I also just know from doing crypto, it occurred to me when I was talking to someone yesterday how fucking crazy this is. There's exchanges that I used over the summer, Uniswap and 1inch. I use them to trade just various fucking whatever. They gave me more money, way more money just for using the exchange. They were like, "Here's these free tokens." They airdropped them that were worth like respectively like $1,500 and $1,300 at the time. I'm like, I was like, "This doesn't make any fucking sense." Like that was the point where I was like, "All right, I'm done."
You got more
Like this
stimulus from Bitcoin than from
from doing nothing, though. It's not even like I was like, I think this is a wise investment. I'll put my money here to make more of it." They're just like, "Hey, you use this shit. Here's $1,500. Whatever, bro." I'm like, "What?" I was like, it's like, "All right, this is reality now." So, I mean, at that point, I jump off. I do the PPP stuff. I have a friendly relationship with what I would call debt or owed money to financial institutions. I can't I know myself fundamentally to be a responsible person, so I allow myself to do things that may appear to be kind of, like, reckless or more, like, traditionally, like, "Whoa, why are you doing that?"
No,
'Cause
you're
I
on money, and I think a fundamental part of you, like, because you've said it before, like, you think you deal with the energy of capitalism better than most, like, than some people gravitate towards a socialism energy, and you kinda like the feeling of the capitalist energy, not unchecked capitalism, but,
No, not destructive, like, perverted, mutated, but, like, the rush of value being exchanged, and, like, that's cool to me. It's like when you look at a cool piece of art and you're like, "I love that." It's the same type of, like, energy exchange. It's just happens to be what we use to buy stuff these days. It
yeah.
won't be like that
And
forever,
even
though.
if you dip, it's kind of like you're this whitewater rafter or surfer or something where it looks like you might almost bust, but as
Yeah.
a result of that, you're kind of getting this little, uh, push from the I don't know, some some good physics analogy there.
Just that's how we should just do things. Good analogy here.
Yeah, just put
Thing
a
that
good analogy there, like, just get someone you like their analogies and plug it in. It's kinda like
look
you see this in bios a lot in people's, social media bio, like, "Insert witty comment here, insert witty bio here," and then that's
yeah.
become its own thing that millions use.
Then you just have to make fun of that, and then you're one step ahead, right?
Mhm.
That's the way this society works. I've learned it. It's pretty
Who
good.
who are
I don't
some
know, I mean
who are some other
yeah.
comedians you're into recently? Not to get off topic, but I mean
No, it's not a top like, as though there's a topic. I comedians I've been listening to or watching I mean, the last thing I watched that I love was this HBO thing, the, John Wilson Explains Everything, with John Wilson How To with John
oh,
Wilson.
I don't
It's
know
like
that
an
one.
dude, check it out. You'll love it. It's a Nathan Fielder produced, thing, and he just goes around New York with, like, a camera, and it's all adventures also, like, in other places, and he's seems like a true lunatic, like, he films everything, but it's amazing. You'll love it. It's just absurd. It's kinda like, you know,
How to with
How
John
To with
Wilson.
John Wilson.
I'll
Yeah,
check that
it's
out. I
fucking
like Nathan Fielder. I love, that Nathan For You show. I watched all of it.
yeah, genius. Yeah, so it's kind of in that vein, just, like, a little more kind of absurd, and, dude, you'll love it. I other than that, I'm trying to think what other comedy stuff. I don't know. What about you, though? What have you been into?
I've been listening to, of course, I still tune into Tim and, um, I recently got into History Hyenas too. I think they're really funny. It's like these 2 they're very much like Tim in that they're these Long Island
Lang
guys.
Iron,
Yeah,
sure.
Long Island guys that, talk about history, but they say they're mostly hyena. It's called History Hyenas, but they're mostly hyena, so it's mostly just being wild, and they'll have Mike Rowe on or Tim Dillon will be on or Mark Norman but they've, I don't know how to describe it. I think it's just I always
I'll
say
check it
it's like
out.
a cult. Every podcast is a cult where it's got its, like,
Totally.
people in it, and you've got the language that you use and the recurring themes of it, and
Themes,
it's kind of
joke.
fun to have little cults like that. So that's a phase I'm going through right now. Who knows where I'll be in 6 months. I'll be like, "Oh, I haven't listened to that in, like, 4 months," and
That's how I am too. I feel bad sometimes recommending shit that, like, keeps going because, like, sometimes I'll be like, "Do this, it's amazing," and then, like, 6 months later, I'm like, "I don't oh, yeah, sure. I don't pay
yeah.
attention to that anymore. I'm sorry.
Yeah, do you get
Sorry for
people
making."
that, listen to your show, which this is a good thing, it's a good problem to have, but they're replying to something you said on an episode. They're listening to you 4 months ago, and they're like, "I like what you said about this," and I was thinking I'm like, "I don't even remember what I said or what you're talking about, but thanks for
It
listening to
happened
the
to
thing."
me enough that, like, I have basically my standard response, which is like, "Yeah, that was probably really good."
Yeah, it
Like,
was
I don't
probably
have
really
anything like, "That's probably sounds good." Sounds like a smart thing to say. Just something I dude, I mean, of course, and I don't remember everything I say. I know that I believe what I say at the time, so I kinda stand be I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, like, just recording shit like this and putting it out for, like, public domain and whatever. Like, you're out there, you have a down day, you say some fucked up shit, you're out there, and I think there's kind of like a fearlessness you have to have if you're really gonna do that, and if you just trust yourself and, like, believe really like, I can change my mind, I change it all the time, and I think I'm pretty clear about where I stand on most things when people ask me. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure I've contradicted myself probably, like, 1,000
Oh, yeah,
times on this show.
and every podcast you and I have done at least, we can you could clip parts of it that would be very bad. You could make us look very bad by clipping it out.
Don't do it. Don't there's the parts yeah, there's enough in this one already. The sucking the dick scene in Soul. Again, one of my favorites, though. Very good. It was really a little offbeat, but pretty cool. Yeah, man, reality, I fucking love it. I know I do get a lot of, feedback on one of the episodes, I think it was the recent one where I was talking about how I think we're all dead. Um, people are intrigued by that, but I do believe it. I do really believe that we're dead. Like, what we call living is much closer to a state of death in the sense that it's a limited kind of focused frame of reality, which to me, it's like closer to actual dead or void or non-existence. And I think we could just reconstitute ourselves every night when we go to sleep or whenever we withdraw our consciousness at any given time. That's also why I think we start to go crazy if we don't get sleep. Like we actually start to lose connection with this place. They're like, no, you can't stay there. You got to come back. You got to come back and
Yeah.
create this place again.
Yeah, because why would it
Um,
not be, I mean, this is total sleep scientist idiot talking. I know nothing about the science of the brain of sleep, but, like, wouldn't it how come if it's just for rest, then how come it's not just leaving your body still for a while? Why does it have to, like, change the consciousness and change the where the brain is working? So, no, I've always thought that the dream world was something bigger than just day residue or whatever Freud would call it. I always thought that's a bigger world that we really exist in, and then we come here, and then we go back there, and we come back here, but for sure, you gotta go there.
You have to. You basically are compelled to one way or the other, and to me, any place you have to go back to will
Yeah.
probably be a more real place than the place you kinda are, even if you're there a lot of the time. Just to me, just a thought.
Isn't
Just
it funny that, like, we even after all these years, like, you and I still have to I mean, we discussed it already, it's because it goes out into the world, but we still have to, like, watch our step a little bit. It's like, "Well, it's just to me, I think the imagination controls reality." Just
you have
but I mean, people can do what they want.
you have to. You have to do it because I think the point where you cross that line, at least where we are now, you start kind of I think that I don't know. At least with my podcast, like, and I do these readings, and I have a whole spectrum of people who have like what I would call a fully integrated experience in this reality, and to the very disconnected, should we say, experience of this reality. So I take it relatively seriously. Like, I don't want to like freak people out, but throwing these kind of ideas out and just like thinking about them in like a playful way can actually lead to some pretty profound states. And I think most people who've taken any amount of psychedelics will probably recognize that, like, when you're really getting like a deep fucking lesson, it's usually like, holy shit, like a quick realization and kind of like a, oh my God, of course type of way. And to me, that's like probably the better approach than being like, me getting with like a megaphone and being like, no, you have to see our imagination creates I don't care if you don't believe me. This is what's going. It's like that doesn't seem to have the same effect as just like, hey, like maybe it seems like we're having a good time. I wonder
Yeah.
why it seems like we're having a good time. Um, it's a trust thing too, like I think people want to see um some level of consistency in people's kind of attitudes related to this stuff. I think that's probably part of the reason I do the podcast and you keep doing your art and like do the creative stuff you do is like it does have a cumulative effect. Like when there's a resonant tone that's being put out through everything you're doing, people pick up on that shit. And I don't know, that
Yeah,
seems
it's
like a fun.
like meaning overtones, like, in music, like how there's the note you
Yeah.
play, and then there's the note above that resonance, and then there's the one above that, and it goes to infinity. So you play a C, but it also has like a G in there, whatever the piano's overtones are. I forget. Every instrument has its own overtones, which is why we like different instruments and not just
Yeah,
listening to the MIDI player play
right.
the
The
different
same
notes. But
notes.
yeah, your intent has those overtones in it, I think, which is why some people can get away with being outrageous and other people can be slightly outrageous and then get called out for it.
Tons of pushback, tons of thing, and I think everyone also that's a reflection of how they feel about themselves too. Like, you see these falls from I bet if you asked every person who had, like, a dramatic fall from grace or cancel culture, there's probably a part of their mind they're like, "I'm gonna get canceled," or I'm worried that I might have a fall from grace." It doesn't typically just come completely out of nowhere as much as we'd like to believe that. I'm not saying that can't happen, but again, there has to be some awareness on some deep level. Might not rise to the level of consciousness, but it's there. I like to kind of go to those places and be like, "Oh my god, do I have like a fear of fall from grace? Let me fucking lean into that shit. Let me go like real hard into fall from grace and see if that's going to like be something I want to play out." And then I've done it in my imagination. I'm like, "No, don't think I want to do that here." Like I prefer to do I've been, like, playing with this idea of nightmares and, like, bad dreams. I would much rather have a bad dream than experiencing it here. Like, a nightmare in my dreams, like, I
Mm.
wake up from it, I'll process it there, there's some horrible thing happened to me. I don't wanna do that here. That sounds bad. This feels, like, really real here. I don't I don't wanna fucking
Yeah.
have terrible shit happen. So I think I don't know, we have ways of working through all this energetic stuff, and I think we do kind of teach ourselves this balancing game between our physical bodies, our intellect, our emotions, and, like, our spirit bodies. These are, like, these 4 this idea of 4 beasts I'm listening to in this Joseph Murphy book. It's great, and this balance between
Can you
those
name
is
the
kind of
beast
how
again?
we have our physical body,
Okay.
we have our emotional, kind of our emotions and our moods. We have our intellect, kind of this analytical, logical aspect of us, and then our spiritual, kind of this over soul, kind
Oh,
of like who
that's
we
in the
are.
Sadhguru book, the yoga book, but they call it like, Manas, Chitti, Bodhisattva, and I don't know, Ringo, whatever.
Yeah, Ringo, of course, you
Yeah.
gotta have Ringo. He's the best, keeps the beat. But yeah, like that balance between those and learning how to kind of use each of those as reflections of another, but kind of to feed this soul aspect, infuse those 3 other aspects with this kind of like higher self, whatever you want to call it. That's the name of the game. For me, in my life, I don't think it has to be like this for everyone. It feels like it probably is, but your emotions and your feelings have such a profound effect on the other aspects of your mind that that seems to be kind of the gateway, kind of like in the tarot, it would be water. It can flow. It can also get stagnant. It can be overpowering, but like that juice, your ability to feel good, even if your senses around you are like, I'm in a nightmare world. If you can feel good, it then has this weird effect of like altering your consciousness that allows you to see that this is kind of a self creation. And then the world literally begins to change. I'm sure there's a timeline where when we spoke in October of what, 2018, 19, where the pandemic didn't happen, where we're just chilling there,
We're
talking about
soft.
whatever.
We're so soft
Yeah.
there. Those
We're
like,
so
just think about the music and art that those people make.
not
It's
good.
probably fine.
No, it's great. We're doing great everywhere. I know that. But truthfully, like, we do move ourselves. This is why, like, when I heard Jessa first talk about like timelines, she was one of the first person I heard like crystallize it in like a very clear and understandable way. Like you can move to different ones. I was like, yeah, we're doing that literally all the time. Like this is something that I had experienced years before I was familiar with, but didn't have a name for it. I'm like, yeah, we literally what we believe to be true on a fundamental level in aggregate is what we call reality. It's what we call life. It's we call God, source, energy, whatever it is. That's it. That's it. And so if you have the ability to recognize, realize that, and then modulate it, you're sitting in a pretty great position and it feels pretty good. It doesn't immunize you from like all pain and suffering in this dimension, but that's not what we came here for. We didn't come here to have the experience of just being like infinitely, limitlessly. We wouldn't be here. Like that's I know that. I figured that much out. You don't come here for that. It's not really what you're trying to do. But we do remind ourselves constantly that this is kind of like a self-programmed game or simulation or sphere of consciousness. And I don't know, I find it to be more often than not a very beautiful, pleasing, harmonious, like, amazing place. Like, so that's why I figure, we hang around here.
Oh, yeah, it's mostly good times. I mean, your organs are still working and you didn't break any bones. I mean, people listening to this maybe did have organs not function or can't afford insulin or something, but I don't know, I feel like yeah, I agree. It's mostly a good time. Are you more, are you focused on anything right now? Like, I feel like last time we hung out was you were all about music, and then sometimes you're all
Still,
about psychedelics, sometimes you're all about is there a main
there
focus you got right now?
I mean, I have, regular life stuff that seems to kind of, intrude on what my personal
Family
goals
stuff?
may be at times. Just family stuff, a lot of, new relationships and old relationships and kids and all of these things.
New
So
relationships?
I yeah, yeah, I have a partner. So,
Wait, not
just
not the one you went to Turkey with?
yeah, same one, same one,
Oh,
same
okay.
one.
Oh,
But like,
that's the same.
relatively new. Yeah, relatively new.
Can I
So
say
because
her
like those
name?
ones
You can beep it out if
Denise,
not.
Denise.
Starts with
No,
D.
Denise.
Yeah.
Yeah, Denise.
She's a DJ.
So yeah, produce just amazing. It's impossible for me to explain all the things that she does. She's now doing live blood analysis, learning to, like, look at blood and determine people's health and shit. It's the coolest fucking thing.
Oh,
It's
damn.
crazy, and it's, like, something I would literally never do. I don't even like getting, like taking blood.
I
It's
don't
like a
even like
prick in my
Bloody
foot.
Marys.
Oh god,
It's
yeah,
just
man, that's
tomato juice and celery and other stuff that's
they're
probably
also
fine, I
gross.
just would never order it.
Um, no, but, like, music is, like, pretty much when I get, like, a free moment, that's pretty much what I've been gravitating towards. It's just what I wanna do. It makes me feel the best. It is really satisfying. Um, I'm not trying to figure I try to not say try. Um, I'm figuring out how to, like, finish and put stuff out in a way that feels, like,
Did you say you're
productive and
trying to not say try? That was
yeah,
great because you
exactly.
got 2 of
I
them
know.
in there.
I know, it's amazing, it's the best. I'm great at that. But yeah, putting stuff out is, like, a big priority for me. I think, thing you did in the artwork for, was really, like, satisfying on, like, a
12 and
very
shout out to dead people.
yeah, it was just like, I made these things, both of them, essentially in one day. And normally in the past, I'd be like, yo, you made it so fast. Like, you need to finish it. You need to do all this stuff to finish it. And I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? It's like they're done. Like, I don't have to go back. If I want to do something later, I can do that. And I think just having that approach that, like, this shit is done. And I notice more musicians kind of taking that approach. Like, I see it, like, they're just putting shit out. They're just like, "Do it." Like, "This
Yeah.
sounds dope. This sounds good.
I told you the Michael
Put it out."
Jackson, Billie Jean story, right? Where they have their first mix of it, and then they make, like, another 10 mixes, and then they make, like, up to 40 something mixes, and then Quincy Jones comes in, and then it's like, "Okay, what do you got?" And then eventually is like, "Play me that first mix again," and they got it on the first mix, and the first mix is
Yeah,
the one we know, and it was Billie Jean or Bad or one of those B sounding Michael Jackson songs. But yeah, you might the actual version might be the one you made in 12 minutes, not one you slaved over for hours.
that's been a big kind of thing for me to recognize. I mean, I don't know exactly what your creative process is, but I do know you spend, like, time for doing creative stuff or, like, art and things you're doing. I have found that when I actually just, like, spend some time focused on this stuff, there's this point I found it so many times where I want to give up and I'm like, I want to do something else. And if I just hang with it literally for maybe like a minute or two after that, some awesome shit happens in some, like, improbable way. So getting familiar with that kind of energy, I think, like a lot of things, you brought up a ton of music analogies in this one. Like, music is a really good reference point for what we're doing in life, right? If you think about it on a fundamental level, like what we made of, music is pretty fucking great. And I learn a lot of shit through it, like a lot. Like,
Me too.
just push a little bit more. Just like something that maybe you think isn't that good, you tweak it a little bit, you slip, you maybe did something by accident. You have an amazing thing. You let yourself go. You don't have this judgment process of like, yo, what is this? Does this sound good? Does this sound bad? And then you create something that's really fucking cool. Like, that to me is like a really good metaphor for, like, what we're probably supposed to be doing with ourselves, like, most of the time.
Yeah,
So
and it's, You should try to break it too, like, we like to be all precious with, like, "This is my song, and it's a perfect
Totally.
3-minute song about the universe and how it's all love," and, like, you should try changing the pitch, speed it up if you're bored of it,
Tot
like, take the bass out, add another drum, like, whatever, like, don't be afraid to break the thing and put it in your hands and just whatever, twist it up.
Exactly. That's why I smoke some DMT, trying to break my brain.
Yeah,
And it worked.
yeah,
Fuck,
you've
dude.
got one of those virtually indestructible brain, like, what is it? The forever mop, whatever, the mop that they say, "It's virtually indestructible."
Yeah.
Yeah, ShamWow, the mat
Wow,
that you have a
dude.
ShamWow brain that cannot
That's
be
what everyone was saying, 'cause and I said afterwards, I was like, this could break someone. Like, this could actually launch them and, like, ruin their reality for a substantial and, everyone was sharing their stories of like, "Yeah, we know someone. We know this person. Like, they didn't come back." I'm like, "Fuck. Thank God I went through this years ago." Cool, dude. You're the best. What are you still
right
focusing
back
on
at
your
you.
art and stuff? Yeah.
Hold on, you're breaking up. Let's do
What are you doing?
this.
I know. The universe is we're done. Fuck.
Say it one more time.
Are you there?
I'm here. Do you hear me?
You're phasing back in,
Okay, what if I keep
phasing
talking
back
over
in.
it,
Okay, you're back.
maybe
You're
I'm
back.
back?
You're back.
I think talking helped it. If it sees that we're talking, it's
That's good.
squeaky wheel gets the grease, so it's like, "Oh, this person's talking, I better give it some bandwidth."
Why is it like I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
These
I don't know
things are
how any of
weird,
it
dude.
works, like, nobody can open up this computer and tell you exactly what's going on. You need a team of 100 people, each specialized in, like, the transistor part and the motherboard and the RAM specialist, like, no one really knows the whole thing it's doing. It's magic.
Now you just broke up again. I I think reality doesn't like when, you look directly at it sometimes. I like to rule it I really
Exactly.
do think there is some. It's like these 2 are getting too close to the source here. We have to break this shit up. It's not allowed. Don't I really do feel like that, and I guess that's maybe why it happens, right? Am I feeling
Yeah.
it? Sorry. Whoops.
Oh, but
Fuck.
where were we?
Uh,
Were we anywhere?
I was saying, what are you doing? What's been your focus? What are you focusing on right
Oh,
now?
I'm back in music mode. It's taken me
Awesome.
the the music world brought me out of the news world a little bit because, so much is going
Nice.
on and you wanna know what's going on, and then you decide to look in multiple places so you get a bigger picture of things that are going on, which then leads to uh you can never take all of it in. That's the thing, and if you have a little bit of contrarianism inside you, then if the whole world is saying one thing, then you can't help but be like, "But what about the other thing?" And then you become one of these what about people, which is its own thing, and nobody wants to be a what about person. This is all internal, by the way. I don't comment like, "What about in June?" or what about when the Trump people were violent back in 2016? What about the torch-bearing Charleston people and the fine people? Like, there's so much what
People
about.
do that though. People fucking do that. People literally do the "what about" thing. They say, "What about that?"
Yeah. So then I eventually was like, "You know what? None of this is making me happy, like, listening to the whatever, listening to the center or the left or the right or the comedy people taking in the news. None of this makes me happy anymore, and I'm just going to like, I've always
Do
wanted to
your
get
own
into
shit.
Charles Mingus, like, I wanted to hear what this guy's about, and then you get into that, and I went for months of just listening to instrumental music, not even
Mm,
lyrics. So then I'm living in this world of just that, and now the other stuff doesn't even seem interesting at all. Like, you hear about it sometimes and you have your reaction to it, and some days are more, more triggering than others, but,
I'm glad to hear that
I'm
music has summoned you away from those things because it does seem I just have a theory that people who make, create, play, or are around music will probably be very happy over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It is such a expression of typically beauty. It doesn't have to be, but of kind of like pure essence of what we are that like to either just be around it is like a very smart thing to do.
Oh
That's all
yeah,
I'll say. It's like buying Bitcoin.
trying
Listen or play music.
trying to twirl drumsticks too, and
Only
there's this people can't see it because it's audio, but here's this painting by
Zappa.
this is made by Cass Greener.
Cats.
She
That looks
painted
like a cat.
she painted this, and then I really liked it, and she said, "Oh, you want it? It's yours." So I have a Cass Greener original sitting here in my
She's
office, but
really good.
I I, I can't help but think of the Frank quote where he says, um, "Information is not knowledge. Knowledge is not wisdom. Wisdom is not truth. Truth is not beauty. Beauty is not love. Love is not music. Music is the best." And then it goes into
It really
the
is.
other like 4-minute outro thing.
He's
But
so cool. Oh,
have you seen the
man.
doc?
Yeah.
The Alex Winter doc's pretty good.
No, no, people were telling me about it. My dad really wanted to watch it. I think he comes over tomorrow with the kids. We'll probably get that for him as a treat. Cause yeah, I grew up listening to all this stuff, dude. Fucking just, it plays in a loop somewhere in my deep childhood psyche. These Zappa records just fucking going round and round and round. Danny, funny, and a Sandy, no, no. That shit is just literally embedded in like 3-year-old head to me.
Oh, hell yeah.
Um, Nice.
It's such a
Dude,
huge world. Yeah.
I'm super happy you're doing the music thing again though, because it's just better. It just seems to be like a better place to place our attention. That was an inelegant way of saying that, but it is like it feels like a smarter thing to do right now because I don't believe in linear time the way most people do, but I do think it's kind of where we choose to place our awareness and our attention does influence and shape what we believe. So when you focus on things like music or like comedy and things like that's going to affect your general disposition. So then, regardless of what external circumstances come, you're going to have this kind of general disposition of like, all right, shit's pretty good. Like, I think things are funny and they sound cool to me. Like, it seems to be kind of a core thing. God bless music. It's the
Yeah, and
best.
make it for you. Don't think about your followers or your money or your status or winning a statue or collabing with uh Ty Dolla Sign or whatever your thing is. Like make it sound good to you and feel it in you, and then think about
See what happens.
sharing it and putting it out or whatever.
Yeah, see what happens. I mean, that's super true, dude. I fucking love it. Well, you're the best.
You're the
This has
best,
been
man. It's good
awesome.
talking to you. Hope we don't get in trouble for saying that we both think that Mitch McConnell should stage a coup and
We should though.
what
I mean,
what
it's
else?
just
He
what
should
we
stage a
believe.
coup. Instead of giving out stimulus checks, they should take away $2,000 a month from everyone because that's more free market, I think, if the government takes the 2,000
Yeah,
a month.
and if
And
you don't have it, they should hit you in the genitals.
yeah,
I
and
just
it's
think it's a fair.
proven that COVID is a hoax invented
Yes.
by Hillary Clinton and uh, actually, I don't think we were controversial on this one.
No, we weren't. We said just maybe some people won't like the dead stuff. It's okay.
Oh, that
That's
one.
what we're here.
Yeah, and the
Well, I will say this, just like, so people can hear. Whenever it is feeling more appropriate to have live events again, we should definitely all do something. Like when I say all of us, like all of the podcast people, all of the
the Mind
people who
Pod
are loosely connected,
meltdown.
the Mind Pod Meltdown, like we really should do something because I know it would be super fun. And every time done one of those before, it's fucking
We're gonna
awesome.
all,
So
like, kiss each other on the lips, and
I
it's
know
going to be
it's just an
we're
orgy.
gonna
It's gonna be an orgy.
squeeze the ever living shit about out of each other when it's time, and then we'll get sick of it again and go back into our cave.
I'll talk to you soon, man.
Yeah, good being here. Thanks for having me.
Peace, dude. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Ramin's the coolest. Go check him out on Instagram, his website, raminnazer.com. Go pick up some of his art, his books, his cool stuff. Encourage him to get that PPP we were talking about. Also, for people who are interested in the crypto or financial kind of stuff, how to create your own business, how to get loans for businesses that are forgivable. Yes, that's a real thing. PPP is happening again. Discord server is the best way to do it. You can join the Patreon, patreon.com/synchronicity. You get access to the Discord server for life. You can leave a Patreon and still have access to the Discord server. So you're only on the hook for that little bit of time. It's like $8. It's a pretty good deal. I hype it up because we're going through a bull run cycle with crypto. It's fun times, but also just practical financial shit. It's fun times. How do we navigate this world of abundance? Fun times. So go check that out. Everything else is going on. Fun times USA. We're having great times. Lots of love. Until next week, happy imagining.